Hello YouTube, welcome back over to Gaming House, and this is another good and bad video. I said I was going to try and keep doing more of these. I only got one currently, so let's make this one number 2. And for this good and bad, we're going to go ahead and talk about cross-network play. For those that don't know what cross-network play is, it's the ability for pretty much the consoles to play with each other as well as the consoles to play with the PC community. So far, Xbox and PC have both come out and said, yeah, we're down, we're game, and Sony stepped out for a little bit to go to a bathroom or something. No one's heard back from them. Having that also said, however, Microsoft has done the little sneaky and pretty much said, yeah, we'll remove the limitations, but it'll be on the developers to decide whether or not they want to include crossplay. So probably when everyone's on board for it, expect the first few games to come out to be definitely waving in there, hey, we support crossplay, we support crossplay. Now let's go ahead and get into the good and bad. Let's start off with the good, particularly because I have shorter list for good and a longer list for bad. We'll get into that when we get into that. The good about the crossplay is that first off, we're going to have a broader range of people to play with across the games that allow it. The second thing is that depending on what games get activated, if older games have the crossplay activated, then that means that the population for that game is going to jump. Say, let's use for sure Hardline. I'm not sure about Battlefront, but for sure Hardline's pretty dead on PC. But Hardline still has a pretty large, not large, but still a decent amount of players on the console version. So anyone who wants to play it on PC would be able to play with a larger audience now if crossplay was implemented on Battlefield Hardline. Now that's all I got to say about good. Of course, other people can probably bring in their opinions and everything else to say more about the good about crossplay. But from my standpoint, that's a short list I got, and we're about to get into bad. And the thing with the bad is the bad, it has a lot of what-if scenarios in it. So that's all depends on the game, the developer, and of course the players. But aside from the first issue that we're going to address, a lot of these are what-if scenarios. Now the first issue, which is going to be the general one, is of course the controller versus the keyboard. Now, all skill aside and auto aim and everything else aside, pretty much the average, going off of what people say, considering I don't play that much on PC, is the average keyboard player can beat out the average controller user, and then a good controller user can beat out an average keyboard user, and then a good keyboard user is going to beat a good controller user. At least that's what people say. So PC is essentially going to have an innate advantage against console players in terms of shooters. Of course, I should have said that first. In terms of shooters, they're going to have an innate advantage. Of course, with other possible adventure-esque games that have multiplayer, it's not going to matter, or any co-op games, that's not going to matter. But in competitive versus shooters, that's going to be a factor. On to the next one, and that is primarily relies on the developer, what they do with the game, and allow these options, which there's going to be two that we're going to talk about. And the first is if it allows the customization of frame rate. For the PC, of course, PC is always able to, well, not always able to. With some of their games, they're able to get above 60 frames per second, while most on console are still in the 30 FPS range. Now, why does this matter? This matters in the terms of, well, again, the shooters, and this affects any of the versus modes, and that's if the players are able to see more frames per second and adjust for more frames per second, they're going to have an advantage over those that don't, a clear advantage. But that all relies on the developer, which is the caveat to this, which is going to hurt the PC people that like to spend over $1,000 for their rigs or so, and that's they may have more games that are locked in at 60 or 30 FPS, which will essentially probably piss off that section of people that spent so much money on their rigs. And the final point for the bad section, and that's not necessarily pointing more fingers at people or so, not that it matters, it's a console versus PC thing, but you may have noticed I'm using Division for the gameplay in the back, and that's going to be the example, and that is cheaters. Cheaters on the PC are going to have, well, besides an obvious advantage, but they're going to be able to get away with a lot more as opposed to cheaters on console, which usually have to mod the console, mod the game, and usually that, I believe with this generation console, that it actually breaks the console, or they lock it out. Whereas on PC, they're able to do things. And I'm using, again, the Division for the example, because on the PC version Division, there were a lot of cheaters. This is all recorded before Update 1.1 drops, so I'm not sure how much that's going to address or fix. But obviously, if there was there's been reports of abundance of cheaters on there, and if that was available across all platforms, that would obviously diminish the game's value to the console players to not want to go on at all, because they have those on the PC they're able to just cheat and get away with it, that can pretty much ruin the experience for a lot of people. And this doesn't apply to all games. Some games they'll probably be able to get away with a better anti-cheat system or what have you, or they might implement something in the future. But as it stands now, cheaters are able to get away with stuff more on the PC as opposed to consoles. But that'll do it for this good and bad video about cross-network play. Hopefully the comment section's not a war between consoles and PC. Personally, I'm entirely up for the cross-network play. I'm down for it, and I really don't care about Xbox, or no, I do care about Xbox. I play on Xbox. But I don't care about console versus PC. I'm a gamer in general. I don't care about that. Play what you want to play on what you want to play. We're all on the same team here. But as always, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun YouTube stuff. Help a player out. And as always, you're going to come back over to Gaming House for more gameplay and commentary.